I've done about 12 minutes of this and I haven't actually explained what I do. Hi, hello, welcome. You're probably just as new to this channel as I am. This will be my first proper video and I thought, what better way to do it than to just introduce myself a little bit and talk a bit about my background and how I got to sort of the position I am now. So please stick with it. I don't know how it's going to go. This is the beginning. I do tend to ramble, but I'm going to attempt to keep this at around 10 to 15 minutes of a video, but we'll see how it goes. So first off, I feel like I should sort of say who I am and what I currently do. For those of you that may not know me, so my name's Coquerel. I am now a second year PhD student at the University of Toronto. I'm not currently in Toronto. I'm currently filming this from Arizona, hence the Arizona t-shirt, but I'll explain a little bit more in a little bit as to why I'm currently in Arizona and why I have been for the past nearly 3 weeks now. So the best way I feel I can go through this is to just start at the beginning and then maybe go through all the different steps as to how I got to the University of Toronto. So I started off, as you can probably tell if you don't already know me, I am not Canadian. I am English. I'm actually from a little city called Wolverhampton, which is near Birmingham. I'll put maybe a little map here, hopefully, so you can see exactly where I'm from. But I grew up in Wolverhampton, and then when I was 19, so a year later than most people, I went to university. So I went to university in Nottingham, I went to Nottingham Trent University, and I did my BSc in zoo biology, which isn't a particularly popular course, so some of you may not know what it is, but it's basically zoo animal management. So I did everything from sort of knowing how to manage animal collections through to the importance of zoos, zoo nutrition, zoo conservation, zoo education, loads of different things. It was a new-ish course when I started, but now the zoo biology course at NTU is one of the sort of biggest zoo biology courses in the UK, which is really super exciting. But obviously it was a very captive animal base, and for those of you that know me now, I am not a captive animal person. I'm actually more of a wildlife conservation person, but I still do have a big soft spot for zoos, and I always go to a zoo whenever I go somewhere new, but I didn't stay in the zoo world. I sort of diverted off a little bit. So I did my BSc, which was 3 years. I didn't take a placement year for many reasons. At one point in time, I probably regretted not doing it, but now I'm really content with the fact that I didn't do it, and clearly it just wasn't the best thing for me to do at that time. And I got experiences in other ways and sort of after I did my degree. So I don't feel guilty for not doing that. So I did that for 3 years. When I finished, like most people when they finish their degree, I felt a lot of pressure to find a job. I didn't know what job I wanted. As I said, I knew I didn't want to stay in the zoo world. I had very little experience in zoos, so it was really hard to try and work out and find a job. So I ended up working in a coffee shop, a garden centre for quite some time, which I really enjoyed. I mean, it's a customer service job, and for anybody that does work in customer service or has done, you know how tricky it can be. But I did meet some wonderful people, and I mean, I got free food every day, so can't really complain. But luckily enough, while I was doing that, I had the opportunity to do like a 6-week internship, which was back at the university, back at NTU at the Brackenhurst campus, which is in a tiny little village in Nottinghamshire called Southwell. I managed to go back there for 6 weeks, working with an old sort of lecturer of mine, and it sounds really cliche, but it kind of reignited that love and passion that I had for education as a whole, because by the end of my degree, it had sucked the life out of me a little bit, but this sort of re-energized me. And so I made the decision to go back and do a master's degree. So I applied for the Masters in Endangered Species Recovery and Conservation at NTU. And all of these courses as well, I will put a link in the description for anybody that's interested. You'll probably see my face on the MSc one and a video of me, because I decided to do a student profile. But I went back and did that Masters, and now this is where for me, this is where the journey started and how I have got to where I am right now. Because as part of that, I was lucky enough to get to go to Madagascar. So I knew that I was going to go do the Masters. I knew one of the lecturers was working in conjunction with an organisation called Operation Wallacea that work in Madagascar, and she was setting up student-led research projects. So I managed to get in on that. I'd never done fieldwork. I'd never been to anywhere outside of Europe. And at that point, I've only ever been to America twice. So I'd only ever been outside of Europe in general twice. So going all the way to Africa on my own and going and living in the forest was a really big deal. So I managed to get the opportunity to go to Madagascar. So this was for 6 weeks, and this was to do my research project. So my independent research project that was part of my master's degree. And I can't even put into words and explain how incredible that experience was for me and how life-changing, because it allowed me to meet so many different people, make so many connections, make so many friends, and find the real passion in my life, which is lemurs, which is Madagascar, which is doing research, which is conservation, and all these things. So one of the best things I did when I was there was I actually got to meet my now current PhD supervisor, and I got to build that connection with him and get to know him a little bit more as well. And then I managed to keep in contact with him so that when I decided to apply for a PhD, I knew that I wanted to reach out to him. So if people are interested in hearing more specifically about my MSc experience in Madagascar in that field season that I did, let me know, and I'll probably or happily do another video just talking about that, because I could talk about that for half an hour, but I don't want to in this. So just let me know and I can always do one for that. But that started this whirlwind thing of me loving Madagascar. And after that, once I finished my MSc, I tried to get another job. Still couldn't, because jobs in conservation are hard to get. There's very few, they're very competitive because everybody comes out with this wealth of experience and knowledge, and it's hard to get your foot in the door with it. So I struggled. So I went back to cafe working again, because it was what I knew and it's what I could do. But alongside doing that, I also did loads of other things as well. So I kept in contact with people that I'd met while I was in Madagascar. I managed to get 2 papers published in that time. I managed to go to a conference. I managed to get into teaching. So I managed to get a sort of sessional lecturer position at a college that was close by while I was still living in Southwell. So that started my teaching journey, which then eventually I ended up getting a position as a higher education lecturer at a college in Yorkshire. So me and my partner, we moved. He went and did a master's. I went and was a lecturer for 2 years. And that was another passion of mine that I found, which was teaching. And as hard as that job was, particularly when it was during the pandemic, sort of from the summer of 2019 through to the summer of 2021. So it was a very difficult time, but I loved my job. I loved the people that I got to meet, both the students, the other members of staff, and all the opportunities that I got with it. So I don't regret that at all. But those were the things that gave me, I went to Madagascar twice. The second time I went as a volunteer coordinator for the same organisation, Operation Wallacea. And that time I got to work with school children that were coming to the site, and I got to impart all of my love and knowledge with them and got to see them fall in love with the forest. So I had that experience in the field, I had some research experience, and I had this teaching experience that when it came around to me wanting to apply for a PhD, although I lacked the same level of research and fieldwork experience maybe as others that were applying, I did have all of these other things that not many people did have. So, funny story, I only applied for one PhD. I applied for the PhD program at the University of Toronto in the Department of Anthropology, because I looked at other places. I knew I didn't want to go to the US. I'd looked at places like Calgary, but it didn't quite work out, and I was struggling to find positions in the UK that were exactly what I wanted to do. So I reached out to my now supervisor that I'd met in Madagascar, and I just asked him about it and if I could apply, if he'd be willing to take a student, and I did apply. I was put on a waiting list because international positions, there's only 2 or 3 a year maybe for the whole department, and they're very competitive. So I was put on a waiting list and I was waiting for someone to say no so that then I could get my position. Luckily for me, someone did say no, and they probably went off to go do a PhD program somewhere else, but they said no, which meant I got to go. So in the August of 2021, I moved to Toronto. That was nearly 2 years ago now, a year and a half-ish. And since then, I've gone to Madagascar again. So last year I planned for my pilot season where I spent, the longest amount of time I'd spent before was 6 weeks. This time I went and spent 3 months on my own, completely planned and executed, and everything was done by solely me. I had a couple of research assistants and I had people that worked in my camp. I had guides and things like that, but I solely organised everything, and that was terrifying. But also, again, another great experience. And I will happily, if people want to hear a video or hear me talking about specifically that experience, I can do one where I just talk about that, because I could do that again for about half an hour. So I did that last year, and that was a super success. And this year, next month, I'm going for my first full field season of my PhD, where I'm collecting sort of actual data that I will use hopefully in my final thesis. I'm going at the end of May this year for 6 months. The first of 2 6-month field seasons. So again, it's all on my own, but luckily I've done it before. So hopefully I know what I'm doing. I'm hoping as well that I'll be able to take you guys with me and create some videos while I'm there and show you exactly what I get up to, what sort of the average day is for me. And I've just realised that I've done about 12 minutes of this and I haven't actually explained what I do. So I'm a PhD student in anthropology, specifically evolutionary anthropology, because that's where primatology, which is what I do, that's where that fits in sort of academia in North America. So I work with lemurs, which are, and specifically I work with Coquerel sifaka, which I'll put a picture here. They're adorable. They're just the best things ever. And I work with them in order to hopefully better understand how they're responding and potentially adapting to living within anthropogenic, so human modified landscapes. So I work in the northwest of Madagascar, and I work in the dry forest, which is where they live. And my aim is to do both behavioural analysis, so I watch them from 6 a.m. in the morning until 6 p.m. in the evening, doing behavioural observations, and I also collect fecal samples to do hormone analysis, which is why I'm currently in Arizona. So as part of my PhD, I have set up a collaboration with a professor here at the University of Arizona, Tucson, in their Department of Anthropology. And my aim, and actually it's not an aim, I have achieved it this past 3 weeks, was to analyse the samples that I collected during my pilot season last year. And so I'm specifically looking at cortisol, which is like quote unquote the stress hormone. So I look at both behavioural responses and then physiological responses. So I've been doing that for the past 3 weeks. I am hoping to come back for around 3 months once I've completed all of my field work. And I'll come back and analyse all of the samples that I've collected as part of that. And so far it's gone really well. I'm hoping that it goes well when I come back to do it again. I hope it goes as sort of swimmingly as it has done this time. That's pretty much a whistle-stop tour. This was like 15 minutes, but yeah, that was everything that I do. So I class myself, I always say that I'm sort of an interdisciplinary researcher. I'm a primatologist, I'm a conservationist, I'm an anthropologist, I am a biologist, I'm an ecologist, I'm a teacher, I'm lots of different things. I don't really fit into one box, but I think mostly I am a primatologist or a lemurologist, as I'm hoping will catch on soon. If you want to hear more about what I do, past experiences that I've had, or even if you just want to listen to this and then hopefully in the next few months see my travels, this time to Madagascar, when hopefully I get to film some different things, then please do join me along this crazy journey. This talking to a camera is totally new for me, but I wanted to try something different, and I wanted to be able to show you all exactly what I do and what it's like for me living in the forest in a tent with no running water, no phone signal, no flushing toilet, no electricity, all of these things. I wanted to show you what that's like. So I hope you've enjoyed this. If you have, then please subscribe to my channel. It's very new. As I said, this is the first video, but I'm hoping that I can turn it into something pretty fun. So I hope you've enjoyed this. I hope I haven't rambled too much, but if you have any questions, do let me know. If you have any suggestions of how I can make this slightly better in terms of me talking, then also let me know about that. And hopefully I will see you all soon. It's very dry in Arizona.